The chandeliers dimmed across Seoul's most exclusive fashion gala. 500 guests fell silent. Champagne glasses froze mid-air. The double doors parted and Kim Jun-ho stepped through, a shadow wrapped in Armani, death dressed in elegance. Every spine straightened. Every breath held. Except one. In the far corner, beneath a forgotten alcove, a woman sat curled into velvet cushions. Her fingers traced pages of a weathered novel. Her eyes never lifted. Her body never tensed. She didn't notice the shift in gravity. But he noticed her. And the scar beneath his collarbone, the one she gave him 7 years ago, burned like fresh fire. Please like, share and subscribe. The Seoul Metropolitan Art Center had been transformed into a temple of excess. Black silk draped from 40-foot ceilings. Orchids floated in obsidian pools. Models moved like phantoms between ice sculptures worth more than most apartments. This was the annual Hanbok Heritage Gala, where old money met new power, where fashion disguised politics, where every handshake sealed something darker than friendship. Kim Jun-ho had not wanted to attend. His assistant, Secretary Yoon, had insisted. The Kwon family will be present. The merger requires your face, sir. Just 1 hour. 1 hour among parasites. 1 hour wearing the mask of a civilized businessman. He had agreed. Reluctantly. Now he stood at the entrance, surveying the room with eyes that had witnessed men beg for mercy in 7 languages. The crowd parted for him without instruction. They always did. His reputation preceded him like a cold wind. To the public, Kim Jun-ho was the CEO of Hanjin Global Industries, a conglomerate spanning shipping, tech, and luxury development. To those who knew better, he was something else entirely. The Silent Emperor. Ruler of Korea's most powerful underground syndicate. His empire stretched from Seoul to Shanghai, from Tokyo to Lagos. His network moved weapons, information, and influence. Never drugs. Never trafficking. He had principles, dark ones but principles nonetheless. The tattoos hidden beneath his perfectly tailored suit told the story. Dragons coiled across his chest, symbols of dominion. Waves crashed along his ribs, chaos he had learned to master. Broken chains wrapped his forearms, freedom purchased through blood. No one in this room knew what he truly was. They only sensed it. And that was enough to make them bow. He moved through the gala like smoke through silk. Conversations quieted as he passed. Executives who had built empires of their own suddenly found reasons to study their shoes. Mr. Kim. Such an honor. He walked past without acknowledgement. Jun-ho SSI. My father sends his regards. A slight nod. Nothing more. His eyes swept the room systematically. Threat assessment. Power mapping. Exit strategies. Old habits from years spent surviving the streets of Busan before his rise. The crowd blurred into meaningless faces. Until it didn't. His gaze snagged on something impossible. A corner alcove. Velvet seating meant for overflow guests. A woman. Alone. Her skin was deep umber, luminous under the chandelier's fractured light. Her hair was wrapped in elaborate twists, pinned with gold thread that caught every flicker. She wore a simple black dress, elegant but understated. No diamonds. No designer labels screaming for attention. And she was reading. Actually reading. At a gala where appearance was currency and attention was survival, this woman had chosen to disappear into pages. His chest tightened. He knew that posture. He knew the way she tilted her head when a passage moved her. He knew. No, it couldn't be. 7 years. 7 years since she had vanished from his life without explanation. 7 years since he had woken to an empty bed, a missing suitcase, and a silence that had nearly destroyed him. 7 years since a Marabello had broken something inside him that he had never managed to repair. And now she sat 20 meters away reading a book, as if the universe hadn't just cracked open beneath his feet. His hand trembled. He noticed it with distant horror. Kim Jun-ho did not tremble. He had faced assassination attempts without flinching. He had ordered executions with steady breath. But this woman, this ghost, she made his nervous system betray him. Secretary Yoon appeared at his elbow. Sir? Chairman Kwon is waiting in the East Lounge. Should I leave? Sir? Now. Secretary Yoon vanished without further question. Jun-ho did not approach her. Not yet. Instead, he positioned himself near a pillar, accepting a glass of whiskey he would not drink, and watched. He watched how her fingers moved across pages with reverence. He watched how her lips parted slightly when something surprised her. He watched how utterly unaware she was of the world burning around her. Or perhaps not unaware. Perhaps choosing blindness. She had always been skilled at that. Memories surfaced like corpses from deep water. Lagos. 8 years ago. A charity gala not unlike this one. Her father, a Nigerian diplomat with connections to international finance, had brought her as his companion. She had been 21. Bright. Unguarded. Laughing too loudly at jokes that weren't funny because she was nervous. He had been 28. Hungry. Climbing the ranks of his uncle's organization with bloody hands and brilliant strategy. They should never have spoken. But she had spilled wine on his sleeve. And instead of apologizing, she had looked at the stain and said, "Red actually suits you better than black. You should thank me." He had fallen in love before she finished the sentence. Their courtship had been a secret war. She was light where he was shadow. She believed in redemption. He believed in power. She read poetry aloud in bed while he took calls about shipments that would never be inspected. For 2 years, they had existed in a bubble of impossible contradictions. He had shown her pieces of himself that no one else had seen, not the killer, but the boy who had once wanted to be a pianist before his father's debts sold him into his uncle's world. She had shown him tenderness that he hadn't known he craved. And then she left. The morning was seared into his memory. He had returned from a 3-day trip to Shanghai, a deal that had required more violence than anticipated. Her closet was empty. Her books were gone. Her scent lingered on pillows that would take him weeks to throw away. No note. No explanation. Just absence. He had searched. God, he had searched. His network spanned continents. He could find anyone. But Amara Bello had vanished like smoke. Her father claimed ignorance. Her friends professed confusion. Every trail went cold. After 18 months, his uncle had intervened. "The woman is gone. Your obsession weakens you. Finish grieving or I will finish it for you." So he buried it. Buried her. Built walls so high that no light could penetrate. And became the silent emperor, a man who needed no one, wanted nothing, felt nothing. Until now. She turned a page. The movement was small. Insignificant. But it cracked something open inside him that he had spent 7 years sealing shut. "Why are you here? Why now? Did you come looking for me? Or is this the universe's cruelest joke?" Across the room, other eyes had noticed her too. Lee Sung-jin, heir to the Daewon Hotel empire, approached her alcove with predatory confidence. Beautiful and literate. A rare combination at these events. His voice carried the practiced charm of a man who had never been denied anything. Junho's grip tightened on his glass. Amara looked up. Her expression was polite but distant. Guarded. "Can I help you?" Sung-jin smiled. "I was hoping to help you. That corner looks terribly lonely. Join me for champagne? I appreciate the offer, but I'm quite content here. Surely the book can wait." "It cannot." Her voice carried steel wrapped in silk. Sung-jin's smile faltered. He wasn't accustomed to rejection. "Do you know who I am?" he pressed. "Should I?" A direct hit. Sung-jin's jaw tightened. "Lee Sung-jin. Daewon Hotels. Lovely. I'm sure your establishments are very comfortable." She returned to her book. "Good evening." Dismissal. Complete and devastating. Junho felt something dangerous bloom in his chest. Pride. Possessiveness? Both perhaps. She had always been fearless in ways that terrified him. Sung-jin retreated with wounded ego radiating from his posture. He would remember this slight. Men like him always did. 20 minutes passed. Junho did not move from his position. He refused champagne refills. Ignored approaching business associates. Let his reputation for coldness serve as a shield. He simply watched. Cataloging changes. She was thinner than before. Sharper in the cheekbones. There were shadows under her eyes that hadn't existed in their shared past. She wore no ring. This detail lodged in his mind with uncomfortable significance. Finally she closed her book, stretched her neck, and looked up, directly at him. The world stopped. Later he would try to describe that moment and fail. It was recognition and devastation and fury and longing compressed into a single heartbeat. Her eyes widened. Her lips parted. The book slipped from her fingers. She knew him. Despite the years. Despite the changes. She knew him instantly. And the color drained from her face like water from shattered glass. For 3 seconds neither moved. The gala continued around them. Laughter, music, clinking crystal. But they existed outside time. Trapped in a gravity that only they could feel. Then she moved. Not toward him. Away. She grabbed her clutch, abandoned her book, and fled toward the eastern exit with barely concealed panic. Junho followed. His stride was measured. Unhurried. He had waited 7 years. He could wait another 60 seconds. The corridor beyond the main hall was empty. White marble floors. Gold-framed mirrors. Silence thick enough to taste. She was halfway to the emergency exit when his voice stopped her. Running again, Amara? She froze. Her shoulders rose. Fall. She didn't turn. How did you find me? Her voice was lower than he remembered. Rougher. I didn't. Fate is crueler than I give it credit for. A bitter laugh escaped her. Fate. Is that what we're calling it? What would you prefer? Coincidence? Cosmic punishment? I would prefer you let me leave. He closed the distance between them slowly. 5 meters. 3. 1. He stopped close enough to catch her scent, shea butter and old paper. It nearly unmade him. Turn around. A command. Quiet but absolute. She didn't move. Amara. Her name in his mouth felt like prayer and blasphemy intertwined. Turn. Around. Slowly, reluctantly she obeyed. And he saw what 7 years had done to her. She was still beautiful, devastatingly so. But there was a guardedness in her eyes that hadn't existed before. A weight in her posture that spoke of burdens carried alone. She looked at him like he was both a memory and threat. Perhaps he was. You changed your hair, he said. Of all the things he could have said. Years of silence. Mountains of questions. And he commented on her hair. But something flickered in her expression. Surprise perhaps. Or remembrance of a man who once noticed every detail. You changed everything, she replied. Her gaze traveled over him. The designer suit, the cold expression, the authority radiating from every pore. The boy I knew didn't stand like he owned the world. The boy you knew died the morning you left. Silence. It stretched between them like a blade. I had reasons, she whispered. Then explain them. It's not that simple. 7 years. His voice cracked on the number. 7 years of nothing. No letter. No call. No explanation. You owe me simplicity. Her eyes glistened. I owe you nothing. The words landed like bullets. His expression shuddered. The vulnerability that had crept into his features vanished, replaced by the mask of the silent emperor. Nothing, he repeated flatly. 2 years of sharing my bed, my secrets, my... He stopped. Gathered himself. And you owe nothing. You didn't know everything about me either. I would have learned. I would have accepted anything. Would you? The question hung between them. Heavy with implications he didn't understand. What are you hiding? He demanded. What are you hiding? She countered. I've heard rumors about who you've become. The silent emperor. Did you think I wouldn't eventually learn what that title meant? You left before I became this. Maybe I left because I saw what you were becoming. Another blow. Precise and brutal. His jaw tightened. You're lying. Am I? You didn't leave because of fear. You weren't afraid of me. How would you know? You weren't there when. She stopped. Caught herself. Shut the door on whatever truth had almost escaped. When what? He pressed. Nothing. Amara. This conversation is over. She turned toward the exit again. He caught her wrist. The contact was electric. Her pulse raced beneath his fingers. His own heartbeat answered. Don't touch me. Don't run. You don't get to make demands. I have spent 7 years with a ghost in my bed. The words came raw, unfiltered. Every woman I looked at wore your face. Every silence echoed your voice. You destroyed me without a word, and now you stand here pretending I have no right to answers. Tears spilled down her cheeks. She didn't wipe them. You want the truth? She whispered. Yes. The truth would ruin everything you've built. My empire doesn't break that easily. I'm not talking about your empire. Footsteps echoed in the corridor. Other guests approached. Amara yanked her wrist free. Stay away from me, Junho. For both our sakes. She fled. And this time he let her. 3 days later. A small bookstore cafe in Hongdae. The morning light filtered through windows clouded with age. Dust motes danced above towers of novels stacked with loving chaos. A handwritten sign above the register read, Lost Chapters. This was Amara's sanctuary. She had built it from nothing. After leaving Lagos, after years of hiding, after reinventing herself so completely that the diplomat's daughter no longer existed, she had found peace among pages. The cafe served Ethiopian coffee and Nigerian chin-chin alongside Korean pastries. The bookshelves held treasures in 12 languages. The regular customers knew her as Era, the quiet owner who recommended perfect novels and never spoke about her past. This morning she couldn't focus. Her hands trembled as she restocked shelves. His face haunted her. Kim Junho. He had become something terrifying in her absence. The soft edges she remembered, the way he laughed when she mispronounced Korean words, the way he held her after nightmares, had calcified into cold marble. The silent emperor. She had read the underground reports. Heard the whispers. The man who ruled criminal empires with bloodless efficiency. The man who had once written her love letters in 3 languages now signed death warrants without blinking. Did I cause this? The thought tortured her. Did leaving break him into this? The bell above her door chimed. She looked up, ready to greet a customer. Her heart stopped. Secretary Yoon stood in her doorway. Immaculate suit. Expressionless face. Behind him, a black sedan idled on the street. Miss Bello. I go by Miss Era now. Of course. Mr. Kim would like to speak with you. Mr. Kim can go to hell. Secretary Yoon's expression didn't flicker. He anticipated you might say that. He asked me to inform you that he will not force this meeting. However, he will be waiting at the Hangang River overlook every evening at 7 o'clock until you agree to speak with him. He'll be waiting a long time. He said you might say that too. Pause. He also wanted you to have this. Secretary Yoon placed a small package on her counter. Inside, her abandoned book from the gala. A first edition of Things Fall Apart, that had belonged to her mother. Her throat tightened. How did he? Mr. Kim acquired it from the lost and found. He recognized its significance. Of course he did. He had always paid attention to what mattered to her. Even when she wished he wouldn't. Secretary Yoon bowed slightly. 7 o'clock. The river overlooks. He will wait. Then he was gone. Amara stared at the book in her hands. Her mother's handwriting filled the margins. Notes made decades ago before illness had stolen her. This book was irreplaceable. And he had remembered. That night she went to the river. The Hangang River at twilight. The sky bled orange and purple over Seoul's glittering skyline. Joggers passed in rhythmic streams. Couples picnicked on blankets. And at the overlook point, a man in a black coat stood alone. Watching the water. Waiting. She approached slowly. Her steps faltered twice. Every instinct screamed at her to turn back. But she kept walking. He knew the moment she arrived. His posture shifted almost imperceptibly. But he didn't turn. Not immediately. You came. You have my book. Pause. I gave you the book already. Then consider returning the debt. We both know that's not why you're here. She stopped beside him. I looked out at the same river. Refused to look at him. Why the river? She asked. You used to say water was the only thing that made you feel connected to home. The Lekki Peninsula. Fishing boats at dawn. Your grandmother's voice singing over the waves. Her chest ached. You remember that? I remember everything. Silence settled between them. Heavy. Unresolved. I need you to stop, she finally said. Stop what? Looking for answers. Waiting at rivers. Sending your secretary to my business. Just stop. Why? Because there's nothing good waiting at the end of this. He turned then. Finally faced her. The dying light caught his features, sharpened them into something almost painful to behold. Good, he repeated. You think I'm searching for good? Amara, I'm searching for closure. For understanding. For something to fill the void you created when you disappeared. I can't give you that. Can't or won't. She finally met his eyes. And he saw it, the fear. Not of him. Of something else. Something she carried alone. There are things you don't know, she whispered. Then tell me. I can't. Why? Because telling you would put you in danger. His expression flickered. Confusion. Calculation. Then something darker. You're trying to protect me? I've always been trying to protect you. From what? She shook her head. Tears threatened again. You built an empire of shadows, Junho. You think you're the most dangerous thing in your world. You're not. There are people who see you as a threat that needs elimination. People connected to my father. To his old alliances. To debts that weren't supposed to follow me here. His mind raced. Her father had been a diplomat, yes. But diplomatic families often harbored darker connections. Especially in international finance. Your father owed someone. My father owed many people. But one in particular. She trailed off. Finish it. One in particular wanted collateral. Something valuable enough to secure the debt. What collateral? Her silence answered. The realization struck him like a blade. You. They wanted you. They wanted leverage. I was involved with the rising power of the Korean underground. They saw an opportunity. Opportunity for what? Control. If they couldn't have your obedience, they would have someone close enough to destroy you from within. His blood ran cold. You left to keep them from using you against me. I left because staying would have painted a target on your back. One you weren't ready for. One that would have killed you before you became strong enough to survive it. 7 years of rage. 7 years of abandonment wounds. They began to fracture. Why didn't you tell me? Because you would have fought. And lost. You were brilliant, but you weren't the silent emperor yet. You were just a boy trying to climb a ladder surrounded by sharks. I could have. You couldn't. Her voice broke. I watched them eliminate people who got in their way. Entire families. Disappeared without trace. I couldn't risk you becoming another body in their wake. He reached for her. Instinct overruling thought. His hand cupped her face. She flinched. But didn't pull away. Who are they? His voice was deadly quiet. Names? Give me names. Junho. 7 years I spent believing you betrayed me. Abandoned me. Didn't love me enough to stay. And now you tell me it was a sacrifice? That you've been running from enemies I could have destroyed. You couldn't have. I can now. The statement hung in the air. Weighted with violence. Promising annihilation. You're not the same man, she whispered. No. I'm exactly what you feared I'd become. And I'm also exactly what those people should fear. He stepped closer. His thumb traced her cheekbone. The intimacy was excruciating. Come back to me. It's not that simple. Then make it simple. There's more you don't know. He stiffened. More? Things I can't explain yet. Things that will change everything. Nothing changes how I feel. You don't know that. Her eyes held secrets he couldn't decipher. And for the first time, fear crept through him. What aren't you telling me? Meet me tomorrow. My bookstore. No. I'll explain everything. Everything? Everything I can. She pulled away from his touch. The absence was physical pain. Tomorrow, she repeated. And then you can decide if you still want answers. She walked away. And he let her go. Because tomorrow promised revelation. He didn't know it would also bring destruction. That night. Junho's penthouse. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Seoul's heartless beauty. He stood shirtless before the glass. His reflection revealed what he hid from the world. The tattoos sprawled across his torso. Dragons mid-strike across his pectorals. Waves crashing along his obliques. Chains broken and reformed around his forearms. Each mark represented a victory. A death survived. An enemy conquered. But the scar beneath his collarbone told a different story. Small. Faded now. A bullet grazed from a night he rarely revisited. She had been there. Mara. The night everything changed between them. Lagos. 8 years ago. 3 months after they met. He had come to her father's estate for a clandestine meeting. Arms deals. Information trading. The usual filth of international power. He hadn't expected an ambush. Her father's business partners had turned violent. Negotiations collapsed into gunfire. Amara had pulled him behind a pillar. Had pressed her hands against the wound in his shoulder. Had whispered prayers in Yoruba that he didn't understand but somehow felt. Stay with me, she had begged. Don't you dare die in my father's house. Worried about the cleanup? Worried about burying another person I care about. That was the night he realized she was different. Not an accessory to her father's dealings. A survivor trapped within them. He had kissed her for the first time with blood on his lips. She had kissed him back like she was drowning and he was air. Now, standing in his penthouse, he understood. She had saved him then. And she had saved him again by leaving. But the cost. 7 years of emptiness. 7 years of becoming something monstrous. Has any of it been worth it? His phone buzzed. Secretary Yoon. Sir. We have a situation. Define the situation. Lee Sungjin has been making inquiries. About the woman from the gala. He knows her name now. And her location. Ice flooded his veins. Continue. He's dispatched people to her bookstore. They arrive at dawn. Junho was already moving. Shirt. Jacket. Weapon beneath his coat. Send the security team to her location. Discreetly. I don't want her alarmed. Sir, there's more. Sungjin isn't acting alone. He's connected to the Yonjin syndicate. They have ties to what? To international debt collectors. Old agreements. Names we've seen before. In your files from 7 years ago. The revelation landed. Lee Sungjin wasn't just a spoiled heir. He was connected to the same people Amara had been running from. Coincidence? No. This was intentional. Someone had put Sungjin in her path. Someone who knew her history. Someone who wanted to draw her out. And she was walking directly into the trap. 4:47 a.m. Amara's bookstore. She couldn't sleep. The conversation with Junho replayed endlessly. His face when understanding dawned. The rage beneath his surface. The tenderness despite everything. She should have told him everything. But how do you tell a man that the ghost of your shared past included a truth that would shatter him? The bell above her door chimed. She looked up from her sleepless pacing. Strange. She hadn't unlocked yet. 3 men stood in her shop. Dark suits. Cold eyes. The posture of violence. Miss Bello. Or should we say Miss Okonkwo? Your mother's maiden name. The one you use when you're trying to disappear. Fear gripped her throat. Who are you? Friends of friends? Old business associates of your father's. We've been looking for you for quite some time. My father's dead. Debts don't die with their originators. One of them stepped forward. You've been speaking with Kim Junho. That's none of your concern. It's our primary concern. The silent emperor has become too powerful. Too resistant to collaboration. We need leverage. I'm not leveraged. The man smiled. You're exactly leveraged. The woman who disappeared and broke the monster's heart. The woman who could bring him to his knees with a single word. Another man grabbed her arm. She fought, an elbow to ribs, a knee toward the groin. But there were 3 of them. And she was one. Something pressed against her throat. A needle. Coldness spreads through her veins. Don't worry. You'll wake up soon. And when you do, the emperor will come running. Darkness swallowed her. 6:02 a.m. Junho arrived at Lost Chapters to find the door broken. Books scattered across the floor. Her Ethiopian coffee machine smashed. And blood. Just a few drops. But enough. Something primal ripped through him. Every carefully constructed wall crumbled. Secretary Yoon approached cautiously. Sir, we found security footage from the neighboring business. 3 men. Professional. They took her in a black van heading north. Track it. Already in progress. We have checkpoints mobilizing. Not checkpoints. Send everyone. Every operative, every contact, every eye we have in this city. Find her. Sir, this level of exposure. I don't care. His voice was not loud. But it carried the weight of empires. She was taken because of me. Because I didn't protect her. Because I let her spend 7 years running when I should have been standing between her and every threat in this world. He turned. His eyes held something that made Secretary Yoon step back. I will burn this city to the ground before I let them keep her. Am I understood? Yes, sir. Within the hour, Seoul's underground mobilized. Information flowed. Networks activated. Fear spread among those who recognized the emperor's fury. This was not business. This was personal. And personal debts with Kim Junho ended only one way. In blood. Amara woke up in a concrete room. Industrial. Cold. Windowless. Her wrists were bound to a metal chair. Her head throbbed from whatever they had injected. But her mind sharpened quickly. Survival mode. A door opened. Lee Sungjin entered. Ah, the bookstore girl. Awake at last. His smile was poison wrapped in silk. You seem so unimpressed with me at the gala. I wonder if you'll maintain that attitude now. Kidnapping women who reject you. Charming. This isn't about rejection. This is about leverage. He circled her chair. Predator assessing prey. Kim Junho took something from my family. A shipping route that was worth billions. He destroyed my uncle's business empire and absorbed the pieces. That sounds like a problem. A backhand across her face. She tasted blood. But she didn't cry out. You have spirit. I understand why he's obsessed with you. The emperor rarely fixates on anything beyond power. But you're different. You don't know anything about us. I know you left him. I know it broke him. I know the cold, ruthless killer we all fear was once just a lovesick fool who couldn't eat for months after you vanished. She stared at him. My sources are impeccable, he continued. Your father owed me a significant debt. When he couldn't pay, he offered you as collateral, your connection to Kim Junho specifically. But you ran before the transaction was completed. My father was a monster. Most fathers are. But monsters still honor their agreements. And your father's agreement said you belong to us. Nausea rose in her throat. I don't belong to anyone. You will. When the emperor comes for you and he'll walk directly into our trap. We have enough firepower to cripple his organization. And when he falls, you'll watch. Then you'll be transferred to our associates in Monaco. I'm told there's a significant market for women of your pedigree. Horror mixed with rage. He'll kill you. He'll try. But love makes men stupid. And he loves you very, very much. Sungjin left. The door locked. And Amara began working on her bindings. Junho's war room. Maps covered every surface. Operatives reported in real time. Van was tracked to an industrial district in Incheon. Abandoned warehouse complex owned by a shell company connected to the Yanjin syndicate. Security? Approximately 30 armed guards. Military-grade weapons. They're expecting us. Junho studied the layout. Every entrance. Every exit. Every blind spot. They want me to come personally. It's clearly a trap, sir. I know. Then. I'm still going. Secretary Yoon hesitated. Sir, this level of risk is non-negotiable. He looked up. His eyes held something beyond strategy. I spent 7 years as a ghost, walking through life without living. She was the last real thing I felt, and I let her slip away because I didn't fight hard enough. Pause. I won't make that mistake twice. He stood. Send in the preliminary teams. Create chaos. Multiple entry points. I want them confused and scattered before I arrive. And when will you arrive? I'll handle Sungjin personally. The violence promised in those words required no elaboration. 11:47 p.m. Incheon Industrial District. Rain began to fall. Junho sat in an armored vehicle reviewing final details. His sleeves were rolled. The tattooed chains on his forearms caught the dim light. He touched them absently. Each link represented a bond broken and reforged. He thought of Amara. In the morning she disappeared. Of the 7 years of silence. Of the truth she had revealed, that she had sacrificed everything to protect him. He had spent years believing he was unlovable. That she had seen the darkness in him and fled. Instead, she had seen the darkness coming for him and stood in its path. I will get you back. I will destroy everyone who touched you. And then I will spend the rest of my life ensuring you never have reason to run again. Sir. Teams are in position. Then we begin. The vehicle doors opened. Rain soaked through his coat. He walked toward the warehouse. And the night began to burn. The assault was surgical. Junho's operatives moved through the complex like shadows. Silenced weapons. Precision strikes. Guards fell before they could raise alarms. But the enemy had numbers. And desperation. Gunfire erupted. The night fractured into chaos. Junho moved through it like a ghost. His own weapon fired with merciless accuracy. 2 men in the corridor. Down. 3 more at the stairwell. Down. He didn't pause. Didn't hesitate. Every second she remained captive was a second too long. His earpiece crackled. Sir, we've located her. 3rd floor. East wing. Heavy guard presence outside a reinforced door. I'm moving. He took the stairs 3 at a time. His breathing remained steady. His mind remained clear. I'm coming, Amara. Hold on. The 3rd floor corridor. 8 guards stood between him and her. He emerged from the shadows. The first guard didn't even have time to raise his weapon. Junho disarmed him with a single movement, used the man's body as a shield and fired 3 shots over his shoulder. 3 down. The remaining 5 opened fire. He rolled behind a concrete pillar. Bullets sparked off metal. Come. Calculated. He counted their positions by sound. When the firing paused, reloading, he moved. Fast. Brutal. A blade appeared in his hand. The 5th guard fell with a knife in his throat. The 6th took a bullet to the kneecap, then the skull. The 7th tried to run. He didn't get far. The 8th surrendered. Please, please, I was just hired. Where is she? Behind the door. I have the key. Junho took the key. Then broke the man's arm. That's for touching her. He unlocked the door. Amara looked up. Her wrists were bloodied from working against the bindings. Her face was bruised. But her eyes, when she saw him, her eyes blazed. Took you long enough. Traffic. She laughed. A broken, beautiful sound. He crossed to her in 3 strides. Cut her bindings. Caught her when her legs buckled. Can you walk? I can walk. Good. Because we need to move. Gunfire echoed below. The battle wasn't over. Junho. She gripped his arm. Sungjin isn't here. He left 20 minutes ago. Something about a backup plan. I know. We have teams tracking him. He said if you escaped he would release information. About me. About my father's debts. About. She stopped. About what? Her eyes filled. About our son. The world tilted. What? His voice was barely a whisper. I was pregnant. When I left. Tears streamed down her face. I found out 2 weeks after I disappeared. I was going to come back. Tell you. But then my father's creditors found me. Threatened to take the baby. Use him against you. Him. A son. He had a son. Where is he? Safe. In Nigeria. With my grandmother. I've been sending money, visiting twice a year. He doesn't know who his father is. I told him. I told him his father was a good man who couldn't be with us. Junho staggered. His back hit the wall. A son. 6 years old. Growing up without him. Because she had protected them both. His name? Jinwoo. I gave him a Korean name. So he would have something of you. Jinwoo. His son was named Jinwoo. We need to move. Secretary Yoon's voice crackled through his earpiece. Sungjin's convoy is heading toward the airport. If he escapes Korean airspace. He won't. Junho straightened. Locked his emotions behind steel. There would be time for processing. After. Stay with my team, he told Amara. They'll get you to safety. Where are you going? To end this. She grabbed his hand. Don't die. Your son needs to meet his father. He lifted her hand to his lips. Pressed a kiss to her bloodied knuckles. I'll be back. I promise. Then he was gone. Rain turned the streets to mirrors. Junho's vehicle tore through the city. Secretary Yoon's voice provided updates. Sungjin's convoy is taking the coastal route. He's 10 minutes from a private airfield. Block his path. Our secondary team is in position. But sir, he has hostages. Civilians grabbed from nearby towns. Of course he did. Coward's tactics. Negotiation. He's demanding safe passage in exchange for their release. Junho's jaw tightened. How many hostages? 4. 2 children. Children. He thought of Jinwoo. 6 years old. Somewhere across the ocean. Waiting for a father he didn't know existed. Alternative approaches? Sniper teams are in position, but the angles are compromised. Civilian casualties are likely. Unacceptable. I'll handle it. Sir? Patch me through to Sungjin directly. Silence. Then connection. Emperor. I was wondering if you'd call. Release the hostages. And why would I do that? Because I'm offering you something better. Pause. I'm listening. Me. Unarmed. At the airfield. You release the civilians and you get what you actually wanted. Sungjin laughed. A trap surely? No trap. Just a transaction. The hostages for me. How do I know you'll honor this? Because I'm the silent emperor. And my word is the only currency that matters in our world. Another pause. Calculation. Fine. Airfield. 20 minutes. If I see any operatives, the children die first. The line went dead. Secretary Yoon's voice was sharp. Sir, you can't seriously. Have the sniper teams withdraw. Visibly. Make sure he knows we're complying. This is suicide. No. This is strategy. He touched the knife hidden in his boot. The backup pistol strapped to his thigh. The garrote wire woven into his belt. Unarmed was a concept. Unprepared was not. The airfield was small. Private. Isolated. Perfect for disappearances. Sungjin's convoy had arrived. 4 SUVs. 30 armed men. And in the center, a van containing the hostages. Junho stepped out of his vehicle alone. Hands raised. Rain plastered his hair to his forehead. Sungjin emerged from the lead SUV. Smiling like a man who had already won. The mighty emperor. Surrendering. I'll admit, I didn't believe it until I saw it. Release the hostages. First you kneel. The command hung in the air. Junho met Sungjin's eyes. Hold them. Then, slowly he lowered himself to one knee. Sungjin's smile widened. The great Kim Junho. On his knees before me. If only your empire could see you now. The hostages. Sungjin gestured. A guard opened the van. 4 terrified faces emerged. 2 women. 2 children clutching their mother's hands. Go, Sungjin ordered. Run. Tell everyone what you witnessed. They ran. Disappeared into the rain. Safe. Sungjin turned back to Junho. Now, where were we? You were about to make a mistake. Sungjin's smile faltered. Junho moved. The knife was in his hand before anyone could react. A guard dropped, blade in throat. The garrote followed, Wrapping around the second guard's neck as Junho spun. The backup pistol emerged. 3 shots. 3 bodies. Chaos erupted. But chaos was where the Emperor thrived. He moved through the guards like water through gaps in stone. Strike. Roll. Fire. Strike again. Bodies fell. Blood mixed with rain. Sungjin retreated toward his vehicle, screaming orders. But his men were dying faster than they could respond. 1 minute. 15 guards down. 2 minutes. 23. By the 3rd minute only Sungjin remained. Cornered against his SUV. Weapon trembling in his hand. You said you'd surrender? I said I'd come unarmed. I lied. Junho advanced. Slow. Deliberate. A predator savoring the final moments of a hunt. Please, Sungjin dropped his weapon. Please, I'll give you everything. The network, the debts, my family's entire. You threatened her. The words were ice. You kidnapped her. You spoke of selling her. You made her bleed. Sungjin fell to his knees. I'm sorry, I didn't know. And then you used children as shields. Junho stopped directly before him. I looked down at the broken man. I'm not a good person. I have done terrible things for power, for survival, for revenge. But there are lines I do not cross. And you crossed all of them. The blade rose. The authorities found Sungjin's body at dawn. Along with his entire operation. Evidence of trafficking. Illegal arms. International debt manipulation. The Yanjin syndicate collapsed within the week. Its leaders scattered, captured, or worse. And Kim Junho's name was never mentioned. Because that was how he operated. From the shadows. Without fingerprints. Amara waited in a safe house. 12 hours of fear. 12 hours of uncertainty. When the door finally opened, she stopped breathing. He stood in the doorway. Covered in rain and blood that wasn't his. Exhausted. Battered. Alive. It's done, he said. She crossed the room. Wrapped her arms around him. Held on like he might disappear if she let go. His arms came around her slowly. As if remembering how. I'm sorry, she whispered. For everything. For leaving. For not telling you. For 7 years of... Stop. His voice was rough. You protected me. You protected our son. You sacrificed everything you wanted to keep us safe. He pulled back. Looked into her eyes. I spent 7 years hating you for leaving. And now I spend the rest of my life honoring why you did. His forehead pressed to hers. Take me to him. To Jinwoo. I want to meet my son. Her tears fell freely. He'll love you. He already asks about his father. Every day. Junho closed his eyes. I'll spend every day earning that love. But as he held her, his phone buzzed. Secretary Yoon's voice was tense. Sir. We've intercepted a transmission. The Yanjin syndicate had a contingency plan. If Sungjin was eliminated, an assassination order would activate automatically. Target. Pause. A child in Nigeria. 6 years old. Name, Kim Jinwoo. Amara felt him go rigid. Junho? What's wrong? His eyes met hers. And for the first time she saw true fear in the silent emperor's gaze. They know about Jinwoo. The safe house became a war room within minutes. Junho moved with terrifying efficiency. His coat was still damp with rain and blood, but his hands were steady now. The fear she had glimpsed in his eyes had been swallowed whole, consumed by something far more dangerous. Purpose. Secretary Yoon arrived within 20 minutes. Laptops opened. Satellite feeds activated. Encrypted communication lines hummed. Amara watched from the corner, arms wrapped around herself, trembling not from cold but from a terror so deep it had no sound. Jinwoo. Her baby. Her reason for breathing. The boy with his father's sharp jawline and her mother's warm laugh. 6 years old and targeted for assassination by men he would never understand. Talk to me, Junho commanded. Secretary Yoon pulled up intercepted communications. The contingency was embedded in Sungjin's network as a dead man's switch. Upon confirmation of his death, an automated order was dispatched to operatives across 3 continents. The primary target is the child. Secondary targets include Amara's grandmother, Mama Adiz, and anyone in the immediate household. How long before the order reaches execution? Based on communication patterns, 48 hours. Possibly less if local operatives are already positioned. Are they? Secretary Yoon hesitated. We don't know yet. Our contacts in Lagos are mobilizing, but rural Nigeria is outside our primary network coverage. Junho's fist hit the table. The sound cracked through the room like a gunshot. Then we go. No. Tonight. Sir, the logistics. I have a private jet fueled and waiting at Gimpo. Flight time to Lagos is approximately 14 hours. From Lagos to her grandmother's village. 4 hours by road, Amara said quietly. 3 if you drive like the roads don't matter. All eyes turned to her. She stepped forward. Her fear was still present, but something else had risen beside it. The same steel that had carried her through 7 years of hiding. I know the terrain. I know the village. I know every road, every shortcut, every place someone could hide. You need me. Amara? Don't. Her voice was sharp. Don't tell me to stay behind. Don't tell me to wait. That's my son. Our son. I'm coming. Junho studied with her. For a long moment the room held its breath. We leave in 1 hour, he said. The Gulf Stream cut through darkness at 41,000 feet. Below, the world was invisible, just black ocean and scattered clouds reflecting nothing. Amara sat across from Junho in the cabin. Between them, a small table held cold coffee and untouched sandwiches. Neither could eat. Secretary Yoon and a team of 6 operatives occupied the rear of the plane, coordinating with contacts on the ground. But in the forward cabin it was just the 2 of them. And 14 hours of silence to fill. Tell me about him. Junho's voice broke the quiet. Oh, almost fragile. Amara looked up. His expression was unguarded in a way she hadn't seen in years. Not the silent emperor. Not the CEO. Just a man asking about the child he never knew existed. He's brilliant, she began. Terrifyingly so. He taught himself to read at 4, in English and Yoruba. He's working on Korean now. Found a language app on my phone and just started. A ghost of a smile crossed Junho's face. Korean? He found a photo. Of you. An old one I kept hidden, but he's observant. She paused. Like his father. The words settled between them. He asked me who the man in the photo was. I told him his father was someone very important who lived far away. He asked if you were a king. What did you say? I said something like that. Junho's throat worked. He turned toward the window. She watched his reflection, watched the man behind the mask wrestle with emotions he had trained himself to bury. Does he look like me? He has your eyes. That same intensity. When he concentrates, he gets this crease right here. She touched the space between her own eyebrows. Exactly like you. And the rest. My skin. My mother's smile. Your stubbornness. A sound escaped him. Not quite a laugh. Not quite a sob. Something in between. I missed everything. I know. First words. First steps. First. I know. Silence again. But it's different now. Shared grief instead of separate anger. His first word was book, she offered quietly. He looked at her. Of course it was. He held up a picture book and said it was clear as day. Book. My grandmother nearly fell off her chair. This time Junho did smile. Small. Faint. But real. I will not let them touch him, he said. The smile vanished. Replaced by something ancient and lethal. I will dismantle every network, every operative, every shadow connected to this threat. And when it's done, I will build a wall around that boy so high that danger itself forgets his name. He doesn't need a wall. He needs a father. The words hit their mark. He'll have both. Lagos. The heat hit them like a physical force. Humid. Dense. Alive with the chaos of 21 million people compressed into a city that never stopped moving. It was mid-afternoon when they landed. A convoy of armored vehicles waited on the tarmac, arranged through Junho's West African contacts. Men in tactical gear. Local operatives who understood the terrain. Amara changed in the aircraft lavatory. Gone was the sole elegance. She emerged in practical clothing, dark cotton, sturdy boots, her hair wrapped tight beneath a scarf. She looked like a woman who had done this before. Because she had. The village is in Anambra State, she told the team as they loaded vehicles. 4 hours southeast if we take the expressway. But if they're watching major routes. They will be, Junho said. Then we take the back roads through Ogun and Ondo. Longer but invisible. He nodded. You navigate. I'll handle everything else. They drove into the bleeding afternoon sun. The convoy moved through landscapes that shifted like chapters in a novel. Lagos's concrete jungle gave way to sprawling suburbs. Suburbs dissolved into stretches of red laterite road bordered by palm forests. Amara sat in the lead vehicle beside Junho. Her eyes tracked the familiar terrain with a mixture of longing and dread. I used to make this drive every 6 months, she said. Always alone. Always looking over my shoulder. I'd spend 2 weeks with Jinwoo, then disappear again before anyone could trace my pattern. 2 weeks every 6 months. It was all I could risk. The injustice of it clawed at him. She had been a mother in fragments, loving her son in stolen moments, building a life in Seoul while her heart remained in a Nigerian village. Your grandmother. She raised him? Mama Adis. She's 73 but moves like she's 40. She was a teacher before retirement. She teaches Jinwoo everything: history, mathematics, literature. She says he absorbs knowledge like soil absorbs rain. Does she know about me? Amara hesitated. She knows you exist. She knows you're Korean. She knows I loved you. Loved. Past tense. She didn't correct him. And the silence that followed was its own answer. Secretary Yoon's voice crackled through the secure radio. Sir, our advance team has reached the village perimeter. No signs of hostile presence yet. But there's a complication. Speak. Local communications have been disrupted. Cell towers in the area went down 2 hours ago. It could be infrastructure failure, but the timing is not coincidental. No, sir. Junho's expression hardened. They're already here. Amara's breath caught. How? The order was sent less than 24 hours ago. Which means operatives were prepositioned. Sungjin planned for this. The dead man's switch wasn't improvised. It was strategic. Fear turned to ice in her veins. How far are we? 40 minutes. Drive faster. The vehicles accelerated. Red dust billowed behind them like smoke signals announcing their approach. The village of Yumyaba sat in a valley between gentle hills. Green. Lush. A place where time moved differently. Red-roofed houses clustered along dirt paths. Chickens wandered freely. Children's laughter echoed from a schoolyard. Mama Adi's compound occupied the eastern edge of the village. A modest house surrounded by a garden that bloomed with an elderly woman's meticulous love. Tomatoes, peppers, hibiscus, and a mango tree that Jinwoo climbed every morning despite being told not to. When the convoy arrived, Mama Adi's was standing on her porch. Arms crossed. Expression unreadable. She was small but formidable, a woman built from decades of surviving everything Nigeria could throw at her. She watched the armored vehicles with the calm suspicion of someone who had seen soldiers before and trusted none of them. Amara leaped from the vehicle before it fully stopped. Mama? The old woman's expression cracked. Joy, relief, worry. She embraced her granddaughter with fierce strength. Amara, what have you brought to my door? Trouble? I'm sorry. Where is Jinwoo? Inside. Reading. Where else would he be? Amara's legs nearly gave way with relief. Then Mama Adi's eyes shifted. To the man stepping out of the vehicle behind her granddaughter. Tall. Korean. Eyes like a storm barely contained. And the way he looked at Amara. Mama Adi's had seen that look before. In photographs hidden in her granddaughter's luggage. In the face of a man her granddaughter whispered about in sleep. So, the old woman said. The king has finally come. Junho stopped at the base of the porch steps. He had faced warlords, politicians, assassins. None of them had made him this nervous. Mama Adis. I am Kim Junho. I know who you are. My granddaughter speaks your name in her dreams. She thinks I don't hear, but these old ears miss nothing. She studied him. Unflinching. You are the reason she cries. Yes. You are also the reason she is strong. I hope so. Hoping is not enough. You must know. Do you know? He met her gaze. I'm learning. Something shifted in the old woman's expression. Not approval. Not yet. But acknowledgement. Then come inside. Your son is waiting. Though he doesn't know it yet. The interior of the house was simple and warm. Shelves lined with books. Some in English, some in Igbo, some in languages Junho didn't recognize. The walls held photographs. Amara as a child, Mama Adiz as a young teacher, and dozens of boys at various ages. His boy. Junho's eyes traveled across the photographs with desperate hunger. Jinwoo as an infant, wrapped in white cloth. Jinwoo at 2, laughing with a book that was bigger than his torso. Jinwoo at 4, standing proudly beside a hand-drawn picture of a dragon. A dragon. His hand went to his chest instinctively, where the dragon tattoo coiled over his heart. He draws them constantly, Mama Adiz said, watching him. Dragons? I asked him why. He said they protect people. Junho couldn't speak. He's in the back room. Reading as usual. Amara, perhaps you should. I'll bring him. Amara disappeared down the hallway. Junho stood in the living room of a modest Nigerian home, surrounded by evidence of a life he had missed, and waited to meet his son. Footsteps. Small ones. Quick and curious. A boy appeared in the doorway. Kim Jin-woo was small for 6. Wiry. Alert. His skin was a warm brown, lighter than his mother's, kissed with the golden undertone of mixed heritage. His hair was dark and thick, curling slightly at the edges. And his eyes. Junho stopped breathing. His eyes were his father's. Dark. Intense. Far too perceptive for a child. They swept the room, assessed the stranger, and settled with an intelligence that was almost unsettling. "Mama says you're important," Jin-woo said. His voice was clear. Confidence. Junho knelt, slowly, bringing himself to the boy's level. "Your mother is the important one. I'm just someone who's been looking for you for a very long time." Jin-woo tilted his head. That crease appeared between his eyebrows. Exactly where Amara had described. "Are you the man in the photograph? The one Mama hides in her suitcase?" "Yes." "Are you my father?" The question was direct, fearless. Junho looked at Amara. She stood behind Jin-woo, tears streaming silently, and nodded. "Yes, I'm your father." Jin-woo studied him for a long moment. Then, "You're taller than I imagined." A broken laugh escaped Junho. "And you're braver than I deserve." The boy stepped forward, placed one small hand on Junho's cheek, examined him like a scholar examining a text. "Your eyes are the same as mine." "They are." "Do you like dragons?" "Very much." "Do you like books?" "I'm learning to." Jin-woo nodded solemnly, as if this answer satisfied some internal criteria. "Okay, you can stay." And then the boy hugged him, small arms around his neck, fierce and trusting and immediate in the way only children can be. Junho held his son for the first time, and the silent emperor wept. The moment lasted 3 minutes. Then reality returned with violence. Secretary Yoon's voice exploded through the radio. "Sir, perimeter breach. Armed hostiles approaching from the north and west. Estimated 15 to 20 combatants. Moving fast." Junho released Jin-woo gently. His expression transformed. The father vanished. The emperor emerged. "Take Jin-woo and Mama Adis to the interior room. No windows. Reinforce the door." Amara scooped up her son. "Come, baby. We're going to play a hiding game." "Is it a bad kind of hiding game?" "It's the kind where Mama keeps you safe." Jin-woo looked back at Junho. "Are you going to fight the bad people?" "Yes." "Will you come back?" The same question Amara had asked at the warehouse. Father and son sharing the same fear. "I promise." Jin-woo nodded, then disappeared with his mother and great-grandmother into the reinforced room. Junho stepped onto the porch. Night was falling. The village had gone quiet, that particular silence that descends when danger is close enough to taste. His operatives had established a defensive perimeter. 6 men. Well-armed. Well-trained. But 15 to 20 hostiles in unfamiliar terrain was unfavorable math. "Options?" he asked Secretary Yoon. "Hold position and wait for reinforcements." "It is 2 hours." "We don't have 2 hours. Then we fight with what we have." Junho rolled his sleeves. The tattoo chains on his forearms caught the last light. Broken chains. Freedom through violence. Then we fight. The first shots came from the treeline. Muzzle flashes blooming in darkness like deadly flowers. Junho's team responded with disciplined precision. Controlled bursts. Covering fire. Movement in pairs. But the attackers were professional. They advanced using the terrain, trees, ditches, the natural contours of the hillside. These weren't street thugs. These were trained mercenaries. 2 on the west flank. Moving toward the garden wall. Junho repositioned. His weapon barked twice. 2 bodies fell among Mama Adis' tomato plants. He felt nothing. No remorse. No hesitation. Only the cold clarity of a man protecting everything that mattered. Inside the house, Amara held Jin-woo against her chest. Mama Adis sat beside them, lips moving in silent prayer. Gunfire cracked outside. Jin-woo flinched with each burst. "Is father okay?" "Your father is the strongest man I know." "Stronger than Uncle Emeka?" "Much stronger." "Stronger than a dragon?" Her throat tightened. "Yes, baby. Stronger than a dragon." The battle lasted 47 minutes. It felt like 47 hours. Junho lost 2 operatives in the first wave. Good men. Loyal soldiers. Their deaths burned in his chest like coals. But the enemy lost more. By the time the second wave faltered, 12 attackers lay dead or wounded. The remaining forces began to retreat, scrambling back through darkness toward their vehicles. Pursue? An operative asked. No. Let them run. They'll carry a message back to whoever sent them. What message? Junho ejected his spent magazine. Loaded a fresh one. Kim Jin-woo is under the protection of the Silent Emperor. And any further attempts will be met with the complete annihilation of everyone involved. Their families, their associates, their legacies, everything is erased. His voice carried no emotion, which made it infinitely more terrifying. Dawn arrived slowly. Pink light crept across the valley. Birds resumed their songs, unaware or indifferent to the violence that had stained the night. Junho sat on Mama Adi's porch. His hands were steady again. The blood on his shirt had dried to brown. The old woman emerged with a basin of warm water and a cloth. She sat beside him without invitation, began cleaning the blood from his hands. You fight like a man who has nothing to lose. I fight like a man who has everything to lose. She wrung the cloth. Red water dripped into the basin. My granddaughter chose you. That is not a decision she made lightly. Amara weighs every choice like it carries the world. I know. Do you? Do you understand what it cost her to leave you? She did not eat for weeks afterward. She was pregnant and starving herself with grief. I force-fed her. I told her the baby needed her strength even if she didn't want it for herself. Each word was a blade. I have hated you, Mama Adis continued. For years. I hated the nameless man who made my granddaughter cry. Who gave her a child and then became a ghost. I didn't know. I know you didn't know. She told me. She protected you. The old woman paused. And now you've come. You fought for her. For the boy. You've bled in my garden. She finished cleaning his hands. Set the basin aside. Hatred is easy. Forgiveness requires evidence. Tonight you've given me evidence. She stood. But evidence is not proof. Proof takes years. Are you prepared for years? I'm prepared for a lifetime. Mama Adis studied him one final time. Then nodded. Good. Now come inside. The boy is asking for you. And I've made rice. Jin-woo sat at the kitchen table. Drawing. Despite the night's terror, he seemed remarkably composed. Children, Amara thought, were sometimes braver than adults, because they hadn't yet learned all the things they should fear. Junho entered the kitchen. Changed into borrowed clothes, a simple shirt too small for his frame, pants that ended above his ankles. Jin-woo looked up and giggled. You look funny. I feel funny. Those are Uncle Emika's clothes. He's smaller than you. Significantly. The boy returned to his drawing. Junho sat beside him. On the paper, a dragon. Not a child's crude sketch. A detailed, careful dragon with scales and coiling tail and fire in its eyes. This is very good. Thank you. This one is the guardian dragon. He protects the village. From what? From bad things. Mama Adi says every village needs a guardian. She's right. Jin-woo glanced at him. Are you our guardian now? The question so simple, so enormous. If you'll let me be. Jin-woo added another figure to his drawing. Smaller than the dragon. Standing beside it. That's me, the boy said. Standing with the dragon. Because guardians shouldn't be alone. Junho's vision blurred. He blinked. Cleared his throat. No. They shouldn't. Across the kitchen, Amara watched them. Father and son. Bonding over dragons and simple truths. And she felt something she hadn't allowed herself to feel in 7 years. Hope. Over the following 72 hours, Junho dismantled what remained of the Yonjin Syndicate's international operations. From Mama Adi's kitchen table, using encrypted laptops and satellite phones, he coordinated the systematic destruction of an empire that had threatened his family. Accounts frozen. Operatives captured. Leaders exposed to authorities across 4 continents. The dead man switch that had targeted Jin-woo was traced to a server in Hong Kong. Secretary Yoon's team neutralized it within hours. Every copy of the assassination order was erased. Every operative who had received it was identified, located, and dealt with. Junho left nothing to chance. No loose threads. No surviving grudges. No future threats. It's done, Secretary Yoon confirmed on the 3rd morning. The Yonjin Syndicate no longer exists in any meaningful capacity. Their leadership is either incarcerated or deceased. Their assets have been seized. Their networks have collapsed. And the connection to Amara's father? All debt records have been destroyed. There is no remaining documentation linking her or the boy to any obligation. Junho exhaled. For the first time in days. The boy's identity? Secured. New documentation is being prepared. Korean citizenship through paternal lineage. Nigerian citizenship through maternal. Full protection under both systems. Kim Jin-woo would be invisible to anyone who might wish him harm. Invisible to anyone who needed to know he was protected. That evening, Mama Adise took Jin-woo to visit a neighbor, giving Amara and Junho the house. And the silence they needed. They sat on the porch. The village evening wrapped around them, crickets, distant music, the smell of wood smoke and earth. What happens now? Amara asked. That depends on you. On me? I've eliminated the threat. Secured Jin-woo's future. Dismantled every enemy who could reach either of you. He paused. But none of that matters if you don't want me in your life. She looked at him. Really looked. The man before her was not the boy she had fallen in love with in Lagos. He was harder. Colder. More dangerous. His hands had done things that her conscience struggled to accept. But those same hands had held their son with trembling tenderness. Those same hands had cleaned blood from his knuckles before drawing dragons at a kitchen table. Those same hands had fought through an army to reach a boy he'd known for less than a day. I'm afraid, she admitted. Of me. Of us. Of what we are together. Of what we might become. Of what happens when the danger fades and we're just two broken people trying to love each other. He turned to face her fully. I am broken, he agreed. I have been broken since the morning I woke without you. I filled the cracks with power and violence and control because those were the only materials available to me. He reached for her hand. She let him take it. But those 3 days with Jin-woo, watching him draw, hearing him laugh, feeling him fall asleep against my chest. His voice fractured. I felt something other than rage for the first time in 7 years. And it terrified me. Because it means I still have something to lose. Her fingers tightened around his. You've always had something to lose. You just didn't know it. I know it now. Silence. Crickets filled the space between heartbeats. I can't live in your world of shadows, Junho. I can't raise our son surrounded by bodyguards and encrypted phones and the constant threat of violence. I know. Then what are you offering? He looked out at the village. At the peace that existed here. In life she had tried to build apart from him. I'm offering change. Real change. Not overnight, I'm not naive enough to promise that. But systematic, deliberate change. I've been building legitimate enterprises for years. The criminal operations can be transitioned, dissolved, handed to others or dismantled entirely. Would you give up your empire? My empire was a replacement for you. If I have you, if I have Jin-woo, the empire becomes unnecessary. She stared at him. You mean that? I have never meant anything more. Her eyes searched his face, looking for the lie, finding none. It will take time. I have time. It will be difficult. Everything worthwhile is. And if you fail? If the darkness pulls you back? He met her gaze with absolute certainty. Then you leave again. And this time I won't follow. Because your safety and Jin-woo's future matter more than my need to hold you. The words cost him. She could see it, the physical effort of offering her the freedom to walk away. You would let me go? If keeping you meant destroying you, yes. I would let you go. Even if it killed me. The last wall inside her crumbled. Not dramatically. Not with a crash. Just a quiet settling. Like a house finally resting on solid ground. I don't want to go, she whispered. He pulled her close. Slowly. Giving her every chance to resist. She didn't. His arms wrapped around her. Hers found their way around him. And for the first time in 7 years, they held each other without secrets between them. I love you, he said. Raw. Unpolished. Not the carefully constructed words of a powerful man. The desperate truth of a broken one. I know, she whispered. I've always known. Even when I was running. Even when I was hiding. Even when I told myself I'd moved on. I knew. And? She pulled back. Looked into his eyes. I love you too. I never stopped. Not for a single day. He kissed her. Slowly at first. A question more than a statement. Her lips answered. 7 years of silence dissolved into a single devastating point of contact. Pain and memory and longing and forgiveness compressed into the space between their mouths. His hand cradled her face. Her fingers gripped his shirt. The kiss deepened. The night wrapped around them. And everything else faded to black. Time moved differently in Yumyaba. Slower. Kinder. Junho stayed. Not for days. For weeks. He learned the rhythms of the village. The morning calls of roosters, the afternoon rains, the evening gatherings where neighbors shared food and stories. He ate jollof rice and pounded yam and suya prepared by Mama Adi's hands. He learned to say good morning in Igbo, though his pronunciation made Jinwoo laugh every time. And he taught his son. Every morning they sat beneath the mango tree. Jinwoo read aloud, currently working through a children's version of Korean folktales that Junho had ordered shipped from Seoul. Appa, the boy had started calling him. Korean for father. He had learned it from his language app. The first time Jinwoo said it, Junho had to excuse himself. He walked to the edge of the compound, stood with his back to the house, and let the tears come. Secretary Yoon found him there. Said nothing. Simply stood beside him until the moment passed. From the village, Junho began the process of transformation. Legitimate enterprises were expanded. Criminal operations were systematically wound down. Trusted lieutenants were given the choice: transition to legal operations or depart with generous severance. Most chose to stay. Loyalty to the silent emperor ran deep. The process would take years. He knew this. But the first steps were the most important. And he took them without hesitation. Secretary Yoon handled the logistics with characteristic precision. Sir, the Southeast Asian shipping routes have been fully converted to legitimate cargo operations. Revenue is actually higher than projected. Continue. The information networks are being restructured as a private security consultancy. Several governments have already expressed interest in contracts. Legal contracts. Entirely legal. I've had our attorneys review every proposal. Junho nodded. And the Seoul operations? Your penthouse has been maintained. The office is running smoothly under interim management. However, the board is asking questions about your extended absence. Media speculation is growing. He considered this. Schedule a press conference for next month. I'll address it personally. And what will you say? The truth. That I've been attending to family matters. The media will want details. They'll receive exactly what I choose to give them. Nothing more. Secretary Yoon smiled slightly. Something's never changed. 6 weeks after arriving in Nigeria. A Sunday evening. Mama Adiz had taken Jinwoo to church. The boy had recently decided he wanted to join the choir, despite having what his great-grandmother diplomatically described as enthusiasm that exceeds his pitch. Amara and Junho were alone. In the garden. The same garden where mercenaries had died weeks earlier. Now replanted. Regrown. New tomatoes are already climbing their stakes. Your grandmother's garden recovers quickly. Mama Adiz says gardens and women have the same gift. They grow back stronger after being trampled. He smiled. Then grew serious. Amara. Junho. I want to ask you something. You're going to propose. He blinked. How did you? You've been fidgeting with your pocket for 20 minutes? You never fidget. I assumed either you're hiding a weapon or a ring. He stared at her. You're infuriating. I know. And I love you beyond reason. I know that too. He pulled the ring from his pocket. Simple. Elegant. A band of white gold with a single stone, not a diamond but an alexandrite. A gem that changed color in different light. Green in daylight. Red in the evening. I chose this stone because it transforms depending on the light it receives. Like us. Like everything we've been through. We look different from different angles but we're always the same underneath. Her eyes glistened. This isn't a question with conditions. I'm not asking you to become a CEO's wife or an emperor's companion. I'm asking you to be my partner. My equal. The person who tells me when I'm wrong and holds me when I'm broken and reads to our son while I learn to be worthy of both of you. He held up the ring. Amara Bello. Will you marry me? She looked at the ring. At the man holding it. At the garden that had survived violence and bloomed again. Yes. Simple. No dramatic pause. No tears. Just certainty. He slid the ring onto her finger. It caught the fading sunlight, green shifting to gold shifting to red. I should warn you, she said. Mama Adiz will insist on a traditional Igbo ceremony. I would expect nothing less. It involves negotiations. And gifts. And your family is presenting themselves to mine. My family is Secretary Yoon and a team of reformed criminals. They'll do. He laughed. Full and real. A sound she hadn't heard in almost a decade. She pulled him close. Kissed him beneath the mango tree. And somewhere in the distance, Jinwoo's off-key singing drifted from the church on the evening breeze. 3 months later. Seoul. The bookstore Cafe Lost Chapters, reopened on Tuesday. Expanded now, a second floor had been added, housing a children's reading room decorated with hand-painted dragons. Jinwoo's contribution. Amara stood behind the counter, arranging new arrivals. Her ring caught the light as she moved. Jinwoo sat in his reading corner, a plush nook designed specifically for him, surrounded by books in 3 languages. He was teaching himself Mandarin now. Because, as he explained to his mother with devastating seriousness, a person should know at least 5 languages by 10. The bell chimed. Secretary Yoon entered with a package. From Mr. Kim. He said you'd understand. Inside, a first edition of Chinua Achebe's Arrow of God. And a note in Junho's precise handwriting. For your collection. And for every story we'll write from here. Jay. She smiled. Placed it on the shelf beside her mother's copy of Things Fall Apart. 2 novels. 2 generations. 1 continuing story. The wedding was held twice. First in Yumyaba. A traditional Igbo ceremony that lasted 3 days. Mama Adiz orchestrated everything with military precision. Junho arrived in traditional attire, an ivory Iziagu shirt and red cap that Mama Adiz had personally selected. His operatives, now serving as groomsmen, wore matching outfits with varying degrees of comfort. Secretary Yoon looked as if he were participating in an anthropological experiment he hadn't consented to. The village gathered. Music, dancing, feasting. Palm wine flowed. Speeches were given in 3 languages. Jinwoo served as ring bearer, walking down the aisle between his parents with the gravity of a diplomat and the grin of a child who'd eaten too much chin-chin. Do you accept this man? The elder asked Amara in Igbo. I accept him. With all his shadows and all his light. The crowd erupted. Drums thundered. And Kim Junho, the silent emperor, ruler of shadows, killer of men, danced. Badly. Joyfully. With his son on his shoulders and his wife's laughter guiding his steps. The second ceremony was held in Seoul. Intimate. Private. A rooftop garden overlooking the Han River at sunset. 30 guests. Close associates. Trusted allies. No press. No spectacle. Amara wore white silk with gold threading that honored both Korean and Nigerian traditions. Junho wore a black suit with a single detail that only she noticed, a tiny dragon embroidered inside his lapel. Jinwoo's suggestion. The vows were simple. I spent 7 years learning to live without you, Junho said. I was very bad at it. I don't intend to practice again. I spent 7 years running from the only person who made me feel safe, Amara replied. I'm done running. This is where I stand. Beside you. For every chapter that follows. They exchanged rings. The sun set behind them. And Seoul, for one brief moment, felt like home for both of them. Time passed. Not in dramatic leaps. In quiet accumulation. Year 1. Junho completed the transition of 60% of his operations to legitimate enterprises. Amara expanded Lost Chapters into a small chain, 3 bookstores across Seoul, each with a community reading program. Jinwoo started school. Made friends easily. Drew dragons for everyone. Year 2. The remaining criminal operations were fully dissolved. Junho's private security consultancy became one of Asia's most respected firms. Mama Adiz moved to Seoul, reluctantly at first, then with increasing enthusiasm once she discovered Korean skincare products. Year 3. A daughter was born. They named her Adiz, after her great-grandmother. The old woman cried for 2 hours. Then immediately began teaching the infant Igbo lullabies. Jinwoo, now 9, declared himself the baby's official protector. He drew a dragon for her nursery wall. This one is hers, he told his father. Every person needs their own dragon. Junho looked at the drawing. Then at his son. Then at the tattoo on his own chest. The dragon that had once symbolized dominance and violence. You're right, he said. But the best dragons don't fight. They guard. Jinwoo considered this. Then I'll draw it with its wings open. Not for flying. For covering. 5 years after the gala. A book launch. Lost Chapters flagship store. Hongdae, Seoul. The store was packed. Readers, journalists, literary critics. All gathered for the debut novel by Era Kim, pen name of Amara Bello Kim. The book was titled, The Emperor's Silence. A dark romance novel about a powerful man consumed by loss and the woman who taught him that strength and softness could coexist. It was fiction officially. Everyone who knew them understood otherwise. Amara stood at the podium. Was radiant. Her Alexandrite ring catching the bookstore lights. This book, she began, is about the spaces between words. The things we don't say because we're afraid they'll make us vulnerable. The silences that feel like protection but are actually prisons. She paused. It's about a man who built an empire of quiet because the only voice he wanted to hear had gone silent. And a woman who ran from love because she thought distance was the same as safety. Her eyes found Junho in the audience. He stood in the back, arms crossed, expression unreadable to everyone except her. She saw pride, the love, the quiet, overwhelming gratitude of a man who had been given far more than he believed he deserved. But mostly, she continued, it's about the courage it takes to come back, to say the unsaid things, to choose someone not despite their darkness but alongside it. Applause. Warm and genuine. Afterward the crowd mingled. Jinwoo, now 11, circulated with alarming social sophistication, discussing his mother's literary influences with adult critics who were mildly terrified by his vocabulary. Baby Adiz slept in Mama Adiz's arms, the old woman having refused all offers of a stroller because children need heartbeats, not wheels. Junho found Amara in the back office. She was leaning against her desk, shoes kicked off, massaging her feet. Successful evening. My feet disagree. He knelt, took her foot in his hands, began pressing his thumbs into her arch. She closed her eyes. You know, for a former crime lord, you give surprisingly good foot massages. It's all about pressure points. Same principle, different application. Please never elaborate on that comparison. He smiled. The book is beautiful, Amara. You read it? 3 times. You hate reading. I hate reading things that aren't about us. She opened her eyes. I looked down at him. This man. This impossible, dangerous, tender, infuriating man. Kneeling at her feet. Choosing softness after a lifetime of steel. Thank you, she said. For what? For staying. For changing. For being Jinwoo's dragon and Adiz's first smile and Mama's favorite argument partner and her voice broke. My home. For being my home after so many years of having nowhere to belong. He rose. Cupped her face. You were always my home. Even when I didn't have one. Even when I didn't deserve one. You were the only place I ever wanted to be. He pressed his forehead to hers. No more running? No more running. No more silence? No more silence. No more. Junho. Yes. Stop talking and kiss me. He did, and in the bookstore cafe called Lost Chapters, surrounded by stories of every kind, they wrote the only ending that mattered. Not a conclusion. A beginning. Permanent. Unconditional. Unbreakable. Years later. A warm afternoon. The garden behind their soul home bloomed with impossible variety. Nigerian pepper plants beside Korean chrysanthemums. Hibiscus tangled with morning glories. Mama Adiz's influence, everywhere and indelible. Jinwoo, now a teenager, sat beneath a tree reading Dostoevsky in Russian. Because 5 languages by 10 had been achieved, and he was now working on 7. Adiz, age 4, tottered through the garden with paint-covered hands, decorating everything within reach. Her dragon drawings were abstract. Junho called them expressionist. Amara called them messy. Both were accurate. Mama Adiz dozed in a garden chair, a Korean drama playing on the tablet Jinwoo had taught her to use. She claimed she watched them for cultural education. She actually watched them for romance. Junho stood at the kitchen window, watching his family. The tattoos remained. Dragons. Waves. Broken chains. But their meaning had shifted. The dragons no longer symbolized dominance. They symbolized guardianship. The waves no longer represented chaos suppressed. They represented the natural rhythm of a life fully lived. The broken chains no longer spoke of freedom through violence. They spoke of freedom through love. Amara appeared beside him, wrapped her arm around his waist. What are you looking at? Everything. That's not an answer. It's the only answer. She leaned into him. He pressed his lips to the top of her head. Outside, Adiz discovered a caterpillar and screamed with delight. Jinwoo looked up from his book, assessed the situation and returned to Dostoevsky. Mama Adiz startled awake, saw no actual danger and went back to her drama. Normal. Ordinary. The most extraordinary thing Junho had ever possessed. Happy? Amara asked. He considered the question. Once, happiness had been a concept he associated with weakness. Something to be avoided. Controlled. Destroyed before it could be used against him. Now it was a garden. Messy. Imperfect. Alive. Yes, he said. Yes, I am. Thank you for listening. If this story moved you, please like, share, and subscribe. Every chapter we tell together makes the next one possible.